Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Well, it's September, which means it's iPhone season. So it's like clockwork, comes around roughly the same time every year, almost roughly the same date. Before we sort of get into that, I know we do a bit of coverage of this each year. I think it's going to take a little bit of a different tone this year, but we'll see how we go. But I did want to start off with the whole Hollywood production of the keynote address, how it's morphed from being the guy on the stage. Or I think towards the end of Tim Cook was getting some obviously some women involved as well for to sort of diverse the thing up a bit, other than it just being Steve Jobs on there by himself. And they've got like a whole cast of characters now that are in these videos. They've really put in a lot of effort into the production. So I just wanted to touch on that, given it's like, oh, this is interesting. Now I'm watching a film, as they're zooming around Apple Park and different locations around California, as they're walking up a hill with the Apple Watch Ultra or something, or on a pier or whatever, and it's like, oh well, okay, this is what it is now. We're watching, they only, I guess only Apple can like muster this level of interest for an hour and a half commercial.
Ben, it was diverse, it was inclusive, it was carbon neutral.
Well, the 20-minute video in the middle about their environmental credentials was, I thought, something else.
Oh, look, they're correct on every level. I mean, they must check every aspect of what they're doing against Facebook trends or something. Who would know? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm old school, but I like things to be a little bit unpolished. I like there to be a little bit of raw realism. There was none in there was none in that video, Ben. I mean, not even Hollywood, can create a whole new reality seamlessly for 90 minutes.
Absolutely. And
suspension of belief. It was incredible.
There was some chatter about can they bring back the stage sort of addresses. I don't know if they ever will. I think it's gone past that point now. I think Google and Samsung actually did that sort of half thing where they did have someone on stage presenting, and then they presented videos as well. Which apparently went okay for them. So, but maybe Apple's just like, oh well, we've got the money to produce these things, so we'll just do it.
Oh, I totally agree. And now, when you think that really all of the advances are basically seen on a screen, I think the last true showstopper moment in tech history was when Steve Jobs pulled the iPod out of his pocket. That after a boring presentation, the fact that he could do that was exciting. And they've gone to basically seating people in auditoriums and then, just having a PowerPoint presentation. I think the truth is you can still seat the people in the auditorium. You can have Tim come out and introduce it, then roll your 90-minute movie, and it's far more immersive, exciting experience that way. So I think, top and tail it with a real person, and then the rest of us are all going to stream it anyway.
And apparently the new pros can film in 3D, so maybe they can film it next time in 3D and have people watch it in 3D in Apple Park or something.
Well, that's true if you just happen to have spent the money on the on the glasses.
Absolutely. All right, let's have a chat about what they announced. I guess a caveat to begin with. There's nothing to say here that if we're being critical or anything to say that these things are not amazing devices. We've gotten to a point where they're just brilliant, along in the sense of it's amazing what you can do with them. Obviously, there's things you can pick out. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Whatever. But the reality is that we're living in a world where we carry around these devices every day that they're not phones, they're computers, and they're quite amazing that they can enable so many things for us to do.
Ben, that's a really good point to start with. These are amazing devices, no question about that. And I think whether it's us or anyone else who reviews, say, the iPhone latest release, all we do is we pick on the things that kind of matter to us, or we pick on anything that isn't that can be picked on, good or bad. But the truth is that the device and the product itself, yeah, look, you'd be silly not to buy one based on any criticism that anyone in the world could make, because Apple is inclusive, diverse, and carbon neutral.
Absolutely. So, having said that, let's rip into it. All right, so fairly iterative updates. I think the thing, like my feeling was that when the 15s, the regular 15s seemed like an actual decent upgrade, maybe because last year's weren't. And the pros this year, I thought, well, yeah, there's a couple of nice things in there, but I literally thought I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. And I think that's the difference. Like there were years where it sort of went from that would be really good to have to that would be nice to have to oh yeah, I could wait for that when it comes next year to I don't need to get one at all. And that was the feeling that I had watching this particular one, is that yeah, okay, they've put titanium in the pro bodies, they've put that dynamic island feature into the 15s. There's a 5x tetra prism zoom lens in the Pro Max. USB-C ports. Now let me just
Hooray!
let me just get onto this and look. They've enabled USB 3 speeds on the Pros, that not on the 15s. That's still USB 2, but I think anyone who's buying those phones isn't really doing big data transfer type applications there. But for the Pros, the thing that would have defined it for me is if they put Thunderbolt on it, because if you're going to go to USB-C, just chuck Thunderbolt on it and you get your 40 gigabits a second transfer speeds, and all of those wonderful ProRes videos you're shooting on it can easily come off the phone without any issue at all. So it was a bit of a letdown's probably not the right word, but it was kind of like, geez, okay, you're going to just roll this out over the next couple of years until we get to Thunderbolt. It's at 10 gigabits a second. That's a massive improvement over the previous year, but considering it's a Pro phone and they're intending people to use them in Pro workflows, they show a lot of people, making films and all this sort of stuff with it. You can now record directly onto external hard drives as you're shooting. Great. I'm not against that. It's just like, this is the thing where it's a bit frustrating when they could have put it on there, but we're probably going to have to wait for the iPhone 17 before we get the Thunderbolt speeds, because, next year we're going to double the speed to 20 gigabits a second. And then the next phone after that, we're going to double the speed, and it's going to be, oh, wow, this is fantastic. How are you doing this kind of thing? And it's like, well, this is where the market is now. They're completely out of, I guess, big show-stopping features that these are the types of things that, like we've said, when we were doing our little caveat at the beginning, that's what we're hanging our hat on now.
Yeah, look, it's really good you picked this up. And, it's interesting the way you describe the USB-C or the Thunderbolt situation. For me, what I pick on my iPhone 13 is its weight, it's just thickness, and the lack of a USB-C port. And that for me is just for utility. My MacBook with the M1 has got USB-C, and I'd just like to have a USB-C to USB-C cable. And they're the things that we look at now. And so it is frustrating. I mean, typically when we used to have, for instance, Apple just get rid of the floppy drives just straight up, and remove them. You would have thought that in the original Apple sort of world, you just go straight to Thunderbolt and just say, hey, look at how good this is. They haven't done that, of course, because the marketing and sales team is right there.
Exactly, because we've got future phones to sell, and we need to keep the cycle going. And that was the vibe that I got from the whole thing. It was like, yeah, they've been doing that, kind of all this time kind of thing. But it was blatantly obvious this time that that's that's where we're at. And again, you can't really complain too much because the phones have come a long way and they're at a really good place now. But at the same time, it's fun to nitpick.
Exactly. It is fun to nitpick. I do wonder because I haven't seen the actual specs. Is the phone lighter? And as I said, I think it's thinner. So there's some positives there for me. But now that you've told me Thunderbolt will be on the iPhone 17, I've got another two years to wait.
Well, for the space grade titanium that they used on it on the Mars rover, as they specifically pointed out, makes the phone lighter, so you would actually be happier with it, even though it is a little bit thicker, apparently. So there you go.
It's thicker.
Yeah, apparently.
That's a deal breaker for me.
Alrighty, I think to finish up on that point before we just move on to our final topic is that again, I think they're perfectly fine, and like I said, I think they're more like cars now. It's more like you don't buy, if you bought a car last year, you're not going to buy the same model again the following year. And I think if you settle into a 3 to 4 year cadence with these, because probably by the third or fourth year you might start having battery issues and stuff like that. That might be a good time, and that's probably the cycle for where you feel like after about 3 or 4 years you're going to get like a pretty big upgrade over what you've got now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. So we'll see how it goes.
Now, the final topic is just to piggyback off of that, you don't need to buy this thing at all. The whole digital detox thing. So you don't have to buy every fancy new gadget. You don't have to have every subscription service, subscribed, chewing into your wallet like gym memberships do. You maybe don't spend all this time online, even though you're watching us, which is always good. But the reason why I was thinking about this was that I was actually looking at streaming services, and I was starting to get fatigued is probably not the right word, but I was starting to get a little bit do I really need to have any of this stuff? And the previous 12 months I've kind of been experimenting with actually all of them just to see what's on there and that sort of thing. But recently I just cancelled Netflix for the first time in a couple of years. I feel like I don't need that anymore. I cancelled the Apple TV Plus. I just, like, when I say cancel, I just let them expire. And I'm probably
that's horrific.
And I'm probably going to let the majority of them expire. The only ones that provide any ongoing value for me are YouTube Premium, because it's like you get the music service plus you don't get ads on YouTube, which is, given how much clips that I watch, that's actually incredibly good. And the other one, because they bundle in so many services together, is Prime Video, because you're not like that. The video part's only almost like a afterthought for them in terms of and it's got a decent amount of stuff on there. On the fence about Disney Plus. I've been rather disappointed with a lot of the new content that they've been putting on there. It hasn't been all that great, but they've got a really massive catalog between Disney and the 20th Century Fox library. But after that, Paramount Plus, I almost want to boycott that because of what they've done to Star Trek. And Binge is, it just, if I need to watch the latest, I don't know, House of the Dragon or whatever they are from HBO or whatever, I guess I can subscribe for 1 month and just catch up on the episodes. But I'm just finding that I just want to actually get rid of these because it started to get to a point where it almost felt like an obligation to keep up with all this stuff, and it wasn't fun anymore. There was a time when I actually used to have fun watching stuff, and it's like it doesn't feel fun anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I think the truth is, at the end of the day, there are only so many hours. So no matter how much time you spend on your device, you can't spend more than 24/7. And if you end up with 8 subscription services, if all you ever did was sit around watching each of them, you'd probably be able to do that every day. But the reality is, I think most people are waking up now to the fact that they're not getting huge value. And, a lot of these services are falling by the wayside.
And look, it's not just subscription services. It goes across the board. It's like social media use. Not that I'm a big social media user, but I can see the value in stepping away from that for people that do heavily use social media. And even just stepping away from devices entirely, just like limiting your exposure to it for, maybe just to an hour or two a day. I know, realize like on work days that's impossible because most jobs, not all jobs obviously, but a lot of jobs have the requirement where you have to use technology in some way, shape, or form to get through the day, and some more than others. You could, like me, most of the day is going to be in front of a computer, unfortunately, in between meetings and whatever else. So you can't get away from that. So it almost highlights even more that you don't want to be maybe spending your personal time sucked up by all these devices, all of this content, and this barrage that just keeps getting thrown at you.
Exactly, which one costs you through your subscription, and two, like, just opens you to even more advertising and manipulation through your feed. So I think, there's only so much as humans that we can absorb, and sometimes it's just a step too far.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so to wrap it up, not saying that I would buy one, but I'd probably buy a natural titanium iPhone 15 Pro Max with its tetra prism lens if it was my year. But I am going to sit it out, I think, for another 2 years. I think any of those titanium colors, I don't know, do they stand out for you at all or anything?
No, look, I'm kind of excited about this iPhone because it just means it's only 2 years to my next purchase.
It's like a marker.
It is. It's a great phone, but for me, Apple still haven't got it right. I just don't know how they can get the laptops right and not the phones.
Well, maybe one step at a time. All right. So don't forget to check out our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices. And we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right. So that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.